Welcome back, folks, to the WP-Tonic Friday Roundtable Show. This is episode 286. Got a great panel here. Maybe some of the other panelist members will be joining us during the show, popping in. But we've got a really compact but knowledgeable panel here. I'm going to ask Chris to introduce himself to our listeners and viewers.
My name's Chris Badgett. I'm the co-founder of a Lifter LMS solution for creating, selling, and protecting online courses. That's called Lifter LMS. I also have a podcast for course creators called LMS Cast.
Yeah, and I thought you did a great interview with Adam from WP Crafter. He's another panelist. Hopefully he might be joining us. But it was a great interview. I thought you did a great job there, Chris.
Thanks, I appreciate it.
We've got Sally. Would you like to introduce yourself, Sally?
Certainly, my name is Sally Getch. I am the WP fangirl because I'm a fan of WordPress. And I'm also the organizer of the East Bay WordPress meetup in Oakland, California.
But you're not a fan of Facebook, are you?
I'm not.
No.
I just never was.
Okay. She said that with a certain level of sarcasm. John Locke, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure thing. My name's John Locke. My business is Lockdown Design. We provide SEO for manufacturing and industrial firms, and I'm with Sally. Bring back MySpace.
Yeah, and you did that interview with Rand with me yesterday, and you did a better job than me. What was that about, John? You asked him better questions than I did.
I just prepare for life's moments and let things happen.
My ego is destroyed, folks. There we go. But there we are. When we get to my age, it happens. Well, on to the stories. You don't want me to rabbit, do you, listeners? So, on to the first story. And blah, blah, blah. I'll get my show notes up to help. And it's around Facebook not listening through your phone. It doesn't have to. And that's on the Wire website. And also including a great video, Echoes of Big Tech, on the L2 Inc. YouTube channel. And that's a great... oh, yes, and we got another panelist joining us, Adam. That's great. But that's a YouTube video, and I'm going to give a quick synopsis of this to the panel, and then I'm going to ask them to comment. And it's really... this video discussion was with John Battelle, who was funny enough, one of the founders of Wire magazine, a well-known digital personality in the Valley, VC investor, done loads of stuff. And they were basically discussing what's happened to Facebook. And John Battelle does think in the medium to long term that a credible competitor to Facebook could be found, and is a likely challenge is to come up. He felt that Apple and especially Google's been extremely quiet, just looking, with eagerness that the trouble that Facebook is getting itself into. But he felt, but he also said that any of these big players, a incident might change the landscape almost instantaneously. But he said it's all about culture, and he felt that fundamentally the culture in Google was more intellectual, more based on the origins of the founders, which was from Stanford University, where with Google, more than with Facebook, where Facebook, it felt it was more a kind of street fighting kind of culture, that kind of punkish kind of culture that he's seen in Facebook. I don't know, Sally, what do you think of that synopsis and some of the things that John had to say in the interview? Oh, you're muted. Sorry, you muted yourself.
I did mute myself. I was coughing. Didn't want to disturb everybody. I didn't get a chance to watch the video, but in terms of Facebook and Google, I don't think Google has a leg to stand on in terms of being self-righteous about data collection. I remember going to a presentation at the Googleplex, and there was Larry Page saying, we know more about you than your credit card company. And that was probably, 2003 or 4. It is a long time ago, and it's only gotten more extensive. It's, everybody is collecting data. Facebook is perhaps extra notorious, but, I think that the point of this Wired article certainly is, even as much as is being done by Facebook and elsewhere, there are some things that, are kind of the creation of our paranoid minds, and easy to think about. It's like my mother said to me at the beginning of the month, something about, I saw this thing where there's this like device that they can use to read your thoughts. Like, Mom, it's April Fool's Day.
Yeah, I totally see you. But what I thought one of the interesting things in the discussion with John was that he actually thought it was quite credible in the medium term that that Facebook is going to fade away and a new platform.
It could happen, but lots of people have been trying to be the next Facebook or the next Twitter or the next whatever, and not doing it. I mean, everything is going to be replaced by something else eventually.
Yeah, but but some he compared it to Apple. He said Apple's had multiple kind of changes in what it's selling in a way.
And Google can't create a successful social network to save its life.
No, it's not been able to. But I suppose the reason why he's saying that because what happened to MySpace. But on the other hand, I think the big threat to Facebook, a lot of people were saying was mobile, but they really killed that with their app and the way they dealt with that. So what do you think, Chris? Do you think there could be a alternative to Facebook coming up in the next couple of years? Do you think they're, of the big players, are they the most vulnerable?
Absolutely. I think there could be definitely a new one. I think every business has a life cycle and dies, and declines and dies at some point. And that in the technology world, the speed of that process is accelerating. And there are some monopolies out there that are huge, but they too are not invincible to, being disrupted. In my opinion, it'll come from the ground up. It won't be coming from the big money of Google or Amazon. It's more likely a more scrappy grassroots startup will find a unique angle of redefining social in a different way. So I think it's only a matter of time. It also depends a lot on market segments. Facebook, it kind of seems like is becoming more and more for older people like myself as we get older, and Snapchat and these other things. I mean, different segments of the population use different tools. It's very hard to have a ubiquitous social networking app that works for everybody perfectly. And to that point, I just want to say, because of that very idea right there, I am actually personally okay with all the tracking that happens, because I believe that in a world where marketing and businesses can be designed around very specific segments of the population, I see that overall as a good thing. I just think that, ethics, like we've talked about a couple episodes ago, there needs to be a system of checks and balances to make sure that access to the data is not, used in unethical ways. But I'm all for ethical and targeted marketing and segmentation. And I'm also very much pro entrepreneurship, where new social network could rise up and, compete in the open marketplace.
I want to ask Adam with WP Crafters joined us. I want to ask Adam this. What's been surprising, apart from a couple of companies, and there's really been no in advertising revenue or substantial numbers of people leaving Facebook. So the online media and the established media have had a field day around the crisis around Facebook, but the public's reaction in its major markets is a kind of semi-yawn. Have you been surprised by that, Adam?
Well, no. I mean, what year was it? 3 years ago when there was that, what was that guy's name? The leaker who basically exposed that in the United States. Snowden. Yeah, Edward Snowden. Yeah, so it was a good movie too about Edward Snowden, but it's like the same thing, right? I mean, he revealed that all of our phone calls, all that metadata is being collected, and we had no idea that this was happening. No one cared. You know what I mean? And honestly, I think with the Facebook stuff, I don't put anything on there that's like is so secret, you know. I mean, maybe in the messaging, but there's nothing in there that's like I really care about. So I think that's more of what the thing is I personally don't care. But what I don't like my data going someplace.
Up a little bit.
I am very sorry. I shouldn't be at all. Am I still having?
It could be me. It could be me.
Okay.
No, it could be me actually.
Okay.
He sounds okay. I totally agree about, I was hearing, I've heard other people talk about how, people are, you hear people say, I'm leaving Facebook. And then, 2 days later, there's a post from them.
You know what they do? They create another account that kind of has like a twist on their name,
Right. It's not that people don't care at all, but they don't care enough to put themselves to the kind of inconvenience it would be to actually leave Facebook. And by now, Facebook knows all this shit about you anyway, so it's probably a case of shutting the barn door after the horses escape.
Yeah, but what do they? I agree with Adam. What do they? I really, Morton's on holiday. He's sunning himself in Hawaii, whatever. Wish I was there. I had a little bit of spat with Morton because there's some idea that you're there. Of course, marketing influences you, but you ask any marketer how hard it is to really, get people to do what you really want. It's not easy either. So, especially millenniums, because they've been bombarded by all this crap.
Well, it's easy to influence people to do things that they were already inclined to do anyway. Yeah. And they just need a little push. It's much harder to influence people to do things that they really don't want to do.
And not everybody responds to marketing the same way. I know me, I'm very numb to it. I don't respond to any advertisement, and so I can't, but not everyone's like me. If there's a pizza commercial on my TV, like 2 seconds later, my wife and my son are looking at me saying, let's order some pizza. So everybody reacts differently.
You do have, you mentioned that before, you do have a fascination around pizza, don't you, Adam?
It's just a perfect example.
Well, that's the point of a lot of those ads and things is to encourage people to make impulsive purchases. And, there is a lot of stuff being done that is manipulative. I think we've talked about dark patterns before. And, there certainly needs to be a standard for, for behavior.
Standards?
I know, a shocking notion. But, I'm old enough to remember the floating point issue and I think most people here are also in Intel. The joke about the problem with their processor was that, you know how it says Intel inside on your computer? That's called truth in advertising.
Yeah, but I think also Facebook are really quite savvy because, people say, I'm leaving Facebook. I'm going to Instagram.
Yeah. People are
or WhatsApp.
Right.
The
population as a whole is not terribly clueful.
Pardon? Sorry, Sally. What did you say?
I said the population as a whole is not terribly clueful.
No, but I just think Facebook, they're pretty savvy. They bought up, Instagram, and it's been a great money maker. And if you look at the social networks that the real growth, it's one of the top ones, and it's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. All those images of people trying to make out they're more wealthier than they are.
Going broke doing it, yes.
Yeah, go broke doing it. It's so easy to go broke, isn't it? There we go. Well, I feel the other the other point was, what was the other key point? Well, he also the culture in the Valley, you know, he was saying that it's very founder driven. So do you, Chris, do you think that fundamentally all company culture comes from the founder or the founders?
No, I don't.
Oh, right.
I think it's a place where it kind of starts, but it comes from the team and it comes from the early customers and as well. And it's more of a conversation than a mirror of the founder.
Yes, I agree. Right, I think we'll go on to the next story. But I thought it was worth discussing because I thought it was a really interesting piece. And I might try and get John on the show, actually. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it? On to the next one, which is plugins hosted on WordPress.org can no longer guarantee legal compliance. Oh dear, we're finished. Sally, would you like to do introduction on this one?
Okay. Well, I think this came about because of the imminence of the GDPR. And there's a lot of stuff being reviewed with regard to data collection and this and that. And, you know, I saw the article in the tavern, and then in another place I saw a reference to an earlier article by one of the people who was part of this decision. And what it's saying is, you know, that the truth is plugins could never guarantee that. Because you don't know who's using it or what laws apply or any, you know, and anybody who knows anything about the law understands that, you know, you need to be very careful to say, this is not legal advice. This is not, you know, I was raised by lawyers, and that you can say, you know, this will help you achieve certain things that have been, you know, explicitly stated as requirements, but you can't say it will guarantee your compliance. Probably even your $700 an hour attorney cannot, you know, will not say that you're guaranteed compliance, and especially that you're not guaranteed compliance in perpetuity, because laws change. And so, you know, it makes much more sense to say, this plugin will help you do this thing, which we know is required by, you know, this law or statute in this country, and, you know, and consult your lawyer for all the details of what else you might need to do to be in complete compliance. The GDPR requires, you know, it refers not just to the data you collect on your website, but to all kinds of data you have about people. So,
yeah, well, what does it really matter? Because what's the European going to do if you're based in America, as long as you don't have an office in the European Union?
It's kind of hard to see, you know, exactly. But this has a lot more teeth than the VAT law, and certainly if you are doing business, but
they can't fine you if you're based in America or some other country.
Oh, they can probably find you just fine. They may not be looking if you're a small business without a lot of revenue, but you know, it's still. I mean, I have a lot of clients who have large mailing lists of overseas customers.
Yeah, but that's what I meant. Why does it matter? Because if they're based in America, if it's not a criminal offence, i.e. they can take out an international warrant, you know, are they really going to attempt to go through all the expense, unless it's a very large company, of going through the American civil legal system and hiring American lawyers?
I think if they believe you have the money to pay that $2 billion fine, they will go after it.
Yeah, well, yeah, they probably will. John, what do you think of all this?
Yeah, I don't know why you would have a plugin that would, you know, guarantee that it's going to be compliant with these new regulations anyway. Because a plugin is just one part of a larger system between your server, your website, all the other code on your website, you know, the user data, itself. So yeah, I don't know why you would even, try and have a plugin say that it's going to
I'm
be.
surprised they were allowed to use that word.
Well, yes, I mean, the way the author of this second article describes it really is that, this was a problem before. It was already an issue that you're taking on liability if you make a claim like that, and they certainly wouldn't want the WordPress Foundation to incur any of that liability.
Yeah, well, hey, Chris, are you getting anybody that's based in Europe asking you any questions around all this?
I mean, customers, yeah, people are really concerned with the issue, but the government hasn't come after, me. I have a lot of customers in Europe.
So you got any idea? Or you're just gonna see how things develop, really?
Well, it's gonna go down, I guess, on May 25th or whatever. But I'm looking at it less as an event, as more of a process that's happening. It's already started happening. It's going to keep happening. WordPress is going to make changes. I'm watching what WooCommerce is doing. We're making changes. It's not going to magically all be okay, like with 100% compliance on May 25th. There's also a lot of education that needs to happen. To go back to the original issue, something interesting happens in the software world, especially when that software is around online business. And I don't know if it's a marketing thing or just a cultural thing, but a lot of times we get support or just general community questions around legal issues, around accounting issues, around finance issues, around business issues. We're a software, we're a technology company, and we may have some experience and see patterns in those deals, but I think there's something going on in our culture and our society where they think that if I just buy this tool, if I just buy Lifter LMS, if I just buy this training program, if I just buy this membership plugin, or if I just buy this thing for my online business, it's going to cover it all. And I think there's something going on there where we just have to, which is exactly what WordPress is doing, where they're defining boundaries around what's in the scope of their responsibility. A lot of the GDPR issues have nothing to do with technology. They have to do with the content of a privacy policy, terms and conditions, the way people communicate with their customers. But I see people looking to software companies who are, that are affected by this issue, looking for throwing their hands up in the air and say, solve this for me by May 25th. And I think
everybody wants a magic wand.
Yeah, but I think it's worse than that. But I'm going to throw it over to Adam in a second see if he agrees with me or not. I think it's worse than that because I think if you've got a physical office, a physical business address in the union, you really got to understand this because whatever country that your business is domiciled in, they can come after you. But if you're based in America and that, they wrote all these articles about this, but they don't make the point. Unless you're a very wealthy company that has offices and probably has a physical office somewhere in Europe as well, they're not going to come after you. The chances of them coming after you, because you're not domicile, your business is not domicile in the union. So the chances of them hiring the lawyers and trying to get a civil matter through the American courts, good luck to them. That's what I'd say to them. Good luck to them. What do you reckon, Adam?
Well, and also the fact remains that it's the government there. They don't have the resources, just like the United States government doesn't have the resources for 90% of what they'd want to do. So I do. For me personally, I don't fully agree with every aspect of the spirit of it, but I'm going to do my very best to implement as much of it as I can through the disclosures and through having a proper contact form. But I'm not probably initially going to dot every I and cross every T, and I'm not super worried about it. I mean, in the United States court system, typically if you want to hire an attorney and file a civil case against someone, you're looking at a minimum of $4,000 or $5,000, and that's just to get something filed and sent. That's the beginning, and then you can add a 0 and multiply it by 2 for anything. So, I mean, there is a jurisdiction issue. Now, I'm not an attorney, but when you look at the numbers there, they just, this is my guiding saying in life. Is the juice worth the squeeze? If the juice ain't worth the squeeze, it's just not worth it. There's your answer. It's just not going to be worth it.
Well, you know what's going to happen. You're going to get inundated by those domain letters. You're going to get similar letters sent off to every kind of online business owner in the US. Do you know your site is not applied? Blah blah blah. Give us $100 and we can do a survey of your website to make some. It's going to be just going to be inundated by these parasites sending this stuff, because I don't mind people writing this stuff, but they don't make it clear that unless your business is actually domiciled in the common union, you should be educated and keep yourself aware, but it's very unlikely that you really have to do. It could be a sign that the US government will go down the same road, but who knows? Right, that's my little bit about. That was a little rant.
Well, that's true, though, that the government does want to implement easy ways to make people pay them money for no good reason.
Yeah, all right. We're not going in that road. We're not going down there. Good luck to you, Adam. You need to join This Week in Politics. All right, on to the next story. Design Thinking Is B.S. And John, give us a quick synopsis of this story, can you?
Sure. So for those who don't know what design thinking is, that's something that had its origins in the 1950s and 60s, but in modern nomenclature, that's something that was perfected by IDEO. And it goes by other names like human-centered design. Most often you're going to see the designers get together with the people that they're designing the product or the application for. They're going to get a bunch of sticky notes and put them on the wall. And
you know something,
yeah.
John. As you mention those terms, I'm going into a cold sweat because it brings memories back of when I was doing my degree in interactive design and the shitty frigging courses I had to sit through when I came out of that crap. I can actually feel myself and the essays that I had to write, and I thought, oh my God, what am I? Well, I'm sorry, I'm ranting, aren't I, John?
A little bit, but that's okay. It's your show; you're allowed. But basically, like when you hear people talk about empathy in design, it's really what they're talking about is designing systems that are focused on the humans who are going to be using them. And so we kind of have this idea of design at one point was kind of like this Mad Men, Don Draper type of thing, where the genius creative director goes and creative team goes and thinks up something. But it's kind of the pendulum swinging back toward this getting not only the creative team, but the clients involved in creating. And that's kind of design thinking. So this article is a little taking a bit of a contrarian stance against that. And what it's saying is what's not needed so much, not that design thinking is this awful thing, but what we really need is kind of a focus on cross-pollination. And one thing that there's a couple anecdotal stories that they put in here. And one was about a group of people that went to go define what was the most appealing types of paintings, the most popular. It
was hilarious. I've met them before.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I met them when I was at the University of Michigan, and they were speaking about this and their history of satirical art about the Soviet Union. And looking at this, and then they had a later book about elephants painting, and they were in Berkeley for a while, and yeah, it is hilarious. And yes, if you ask people to kind of vote on their favorite color and their favorite element and you get something that is really completely bland and uninteresting, and that people don't feel passionate about, and you can't necessarily just like leave it up to people to design their own stuff, as all of us who have seen clients take a perfectly nice website and turn it into GeoCities. No, is that having some knowledge and training and understanding of this stuff does actually help, but that to use it in isolation regarding, oh, this is what my colleagues think is cool. It's kind of like the developers who don't want to work with WordPress because it's not using the latest flavor of programming language that they think is really hip.
Yeah. What do you reckon, Adam?
Well, I think that in the context of web design, that most websites, the bar doesn't even really need to be high in design. All you need is like hero image, a couple images of maybe the owners and the team, and a contact form and all that, and some really well written SEO optimized blog posts. The bar, the bar. Now, if you're a large corporation, yes. If you're for example, me, I want my website to look nice and have a nice design. Yes, I want to impress people. But for the other 99% of websites out there, the bar is like really low. You don't really need all that. Someone that wants to hire someone to have a website that they might have fantasized in their head. You know what I mean? The bar just doesn't even really need to be that high.
Yeah, but why? In a way, I understand where you're coming from, but why are a lot of websites so awful, though?
Well, I mean, okay, so what I meant by that was today, so there's a lot of old websites. Now, those could obviously be improved. I'm just talking about what you could throw together. You can easily throw together, any web designer or WordPress implementer can whip something together in a couple of hours, throw some text, especially if they had the client's text, and it's going to meet that bar. Now, if you have a website from 5 years ago, it's going to look real dated and real text heavy, but it's not that hard to have something that looks good, because I'm more speaking in reference to the majority of websites, which should be small business websites, right? Because that's if I want to hire a plumber,
your ugly plain text email will probably convert as well as, if not better than, your fancy prettified HTML email.
Well, my only point is, if I want to hire a plumber, I'm not looking for a fancy design on a plumber's website. I want to maybe have some trust building things, like see some reviews. I want to see the team and their truck, so I know that they're legitimate. And it doesn't really go much further than that, because I'm already looking for something that they offer. I just want to go with where I get a warm and fuzzy feeling, which doesn't require movement on the website, fancy design, a video. It doesn't require any of that stuff.
Right.
Functional is more important than trendy. I have dropped a not safe for work link in the chat, which is to say, I'm not going to pronounce it out loud
I would do that
on the podcast, but I recommend that you take a look at it. It's like pure 1994. All text, no styling. This is just how your browser interprets headings website. I remember websites like this. But it kind of gets you back to the point of, you have a website for a purpose. And if it can fulfill that purpose, it does not have to be slick, trendy, use the latest whatever, and so on. Now, there are some areas where your customers see a certain style on your competitors and they expect you will probably have a similar style. But, the success of Craigslist was a terrific example of how something ugly can nevertheless be extremely commercially successful and useful to people.
And also Judge Report, it's the same thing. It's just links from some other website. There's like, that website's a disaster, and it gets a lot of traffic.
Right. And so it's like, it's nice if it's pretty. I like things to look good. But if it looks gorgeous and doesn't help you, sell products or inform customers how to reach you or whatever it is that you've built this website for, that's a design failure.
Yeah, I'm going to intervene here. I'm really torn here, but I think Chris wants to say something. Go on, Chris.
I think everybody thinks they're a designer. That's part of the reason why a lot of the websites don't look that great. There's not, and we don't have a lot of great words to talk about it. The reality is that design is like, good design is sort of like pornography. We know it when we see it, but we don't really have the words to talk about it. And
I think that's really, thank you for saying that. See, I think, Adam, I think I understand where you're coming from, but as usual, you just push it a little bit too far. I think the reason why you push it too far, Adam, is that you've actually got good taste and you've got a good eye, even though you haven't been formally trained in graphic design. You actually got taste. And I'm not trying to be nasty, but I underestimated the gross bad taste of a lot of people. They have no idea. They slap something up, and I understand where you're coming from, Adam, but you underestimate the appalling bad taste of a lot of people, Adam.
Well, I mean, that's why you have Fiverr, right? People go there and they pay $5 for a logo and they love it. And I'm just like, I've tried that just to see what you can get for $5. And it's horrible. It's the most horrible stuff, but people love it. People love it. You see these Fiverr logos all over the place. So yes, I think my point.
That's the whole point of 99 Designs is a great concept, but the problem is the person that's making the decision who wins has no taste. And,
not a designer.
Taste. It's a bit like saying everybody is great at doing their accounts and well, most people aren't. Most people don't, and it's just linked to what Chris also said, that most people, for some reason, think they're a designer, that they do have taste, but they don't really. What do you reckon, John? Do you think I'm being a bit unfair there, John?
Actually, I want to say something before John talks, because it will feed into John. I think, if we were to sit here and discuss what should be the priorities of your website, and so some people would probably put design as the highest priority or the first priority. I don't think so. I think the words you put on your website should be the highest priority. And I'm feeding this into John because if you look at John's website visually looks natural and great, but you could tell the design is very perfectly balanced. It's not over the top or anything like that, but you could tell a lot of effort, the majority of the effort went into the words he chose to use on his website. And that's what gets people to do what you want them to do or feel how you want them to feel versus the design. So I think it would be the words you choose to use, which is also referred to as copy, then go into the design. After you, John.
Yeah, absolutely. And tying it back into this article and what you said as well, that's, something for sure. I mean, there's a great page on the internet. It's Justin Jackson's words, and it's the same sort of thing that Sally just shared in chat, but it's just words on a page, but you're sitting here reading. You have to start with the words because that's where you form the human connection. And really, if you don't, have that connection, all the beautiful design in the world is not really going to make a long-lasting impact on someone else. So I do agree with what you're saying, Adam. Your messaging, the words, the copy, who you're talking to and how you're talking to them is so important because that's what we hook into as human beings. It's not really, the sound and fury that signifies nothing. I
totally agree.
The waters that run beneath.
But I also think spacing regularity, consistency of font, of consistency throughout the website. These are subconscious things, but I do think people make a judgment call even if they're not aware of it. But on the other hand, you can take it too far. And I do also take, Adam, what you said about the plumbing site. You can take it, it's not an all everything argument. What do you reckon, Sally? Do you think I'm just waffling?
No, I don't think you're just waffling. And I think, part of Adam's point is, there are a lot of, perfectly adequate themes if you're, if you're just putting up a small business.
Yeah, but why do
brochure websites and
of choosing an adequate theme and then they want to completely change it?
Well, there are people who really want to mess with things, and then that's where you get the fact that they don't understand design principles, and
I'm going to interrupt again because I just want to I'm not trying to be rude, Sally. I just want to make this point, Sally, and get your feedback. I think this is quite. I was just thinking why you found the story, and I decided to put it in. But I just realised because I think with the new page builders and what's happening in WordPress with Gutenberg and everything, we're going to see a load of freaking ugly websites, Sally, aren't we? We're going to see dog breaths, aren't we?
Doesn't this happen already? I mean, there have been page builders, not as nice as the current ones for a long time. And there was, GeoCities long before we had any of these tools. There are some people, who don't have the training and who don't have the taste. And because there are people who know that they're not good at design. They don't want to mess with it. They want something that it looks good enough to them. And those are the people who really will do what Adam says. They'll find a theme, put a couple pictures on it, put some content on it, and not tinker with stuff. And there are other people who want to tinker with every single thing, and they don't necessarily think about it in the broader context of what's going to harmonize with the with the site as a whole. And they're like, okay, well, I want purple text on this page, and I want orange text on this page, and I want
orange everywhere,
12 different fonts. This is what happens. This is what happened when desktop publishing came out. It will increasingly happen as there's more stuff that can be done on the web without writing code. It will happen in whatever element that humans interact in, because this is what our species is like.
I think you're going to get less of that, though, with Gutenberg in its current form. If it continues on the path, there's going to be more of to me, in my own testing, there's more of a framework to it that it's hard to deviate out of. So it's not like a modern page builder where you've got drop shadows and everyone applies the drop shadow wrong and it looks horrible. Animations, and people way overdo it on animations and it looks horrible. Gradients, and people pick the wrong colors and it looks horrible.
It's not like that yet, but people are already building custom blocks.
That's true.
And I think a lot of the people who've done page builder work will either extend what they're doing or replace what they're doing with creating custom Gutenberg blocks.
Yeah, I'm so torn by what you've all said, because I agree with everything you said. It's just that I agree with your statements, actually, Adam, because you can really take this design thing much too far. But on our land, I've seen and also seen obsession with some clients about the font size, and this particular logo's got to be moved to, they're just obsessed by it. And fundamentally, they want to really concentrate a bit more on the content and the SEO and the strategy of who they're aiming this at. A little bit more.
People get distracted from the real goal. And, as a colleague of mine was fond of saying, the customer is not always right, but the customer is still the customer. As people who are working for others.
You just had a customer turn up behind you.
We have to put that in. Yes. Well, this one is very clear about what she wants.
I'm gonna end this, and we didn't have a break because we've just been hammering away at this, but I think it's time to end this show. I've been waffling a little bit. I'm a bit burnt. I've done a lot of podcasting this week, and I'm a little bit burnt out.
You recorded like 4 episodes in 3 days?
Oh, I've lost track. I don't even know what day it is. I've been knocking about.
It must be Friday because we're here.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Sally. I'm going to let my great panel, and I mean that, they've been a great panel this week, let themselves. And I'm going to start with Adam. Adam, how can people find out more about what you're up to?
My YouTube channel is where most of the action is. It's youtube.com/WPCrafter and also WPCrafter.com. I have new tutorials going up, maybe like 5. Last week I had 5 or 6, and this week I've had 3.
You're a freaking machine.
Yeah. I put a lot of effort into it.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
What's it up to now? 70,000 or something? Or
52,000, yeah. It goes up about 1,000 a week.
Oh, you must be disappointed in that, Adam.
Very grateful.
Sorry.
I'm actually going to start collaborations, by the way, so it's going to go up faster.
Yeah, please do. Chris, how can people find out about your wisdom and what you're up to?
You can find me at lifterlms.com. LMS stands for Learning Management System. If you're watching this live in 30 minutes, we are doing a presentation on our new assignments rollout, doing a live webinar that'll be streaming into Facebook. You can also find us in our Facebook group. Just look for Lifter LMS VIP. And you can also sign up to get the replay of that video there. And for those of you listening and watching, please leave a review for WP-Tonic. We'd appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for that. But you've been producing some great stuff. And I was saying, actually, Adam, I really enjoyed Chris' interview that Chris did with you on the Lifter podcast. I thought it was a great interview. Sally, how can people find out more about you, Sally?
You can find me at WPFangirl.com. You can find the meetup at eastbaywp.com. I am at Sally Getch on Twitter, and if you can spell my name, you will find me. I am unique in Google.
You're unique in general, in a very positive way, I like to say. John, how can people find out? You've been knocking out a lot of stuff yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, not as much as Adam, but we'll get there in time. You can find me at my website, which is lockdowndesign.com. And you can find me on YouTube as well. Just Google Lockdown Design or John J. Lock. You'll find me. How do the great people get a hold of you, Jonathan?
Oh, it's really easy, folks. Go to the WP-Tonic site. We've got more content about membership and learning management systems on there. Got some great articles written by my co-host and also by myself. We've got some good stuff, and we've got some new stuff coming up this month. Also, got just did a great conversation with John's help with Rand from Moss, formerly the CEO of Moss. It was a great interview. Really enjoyed it. There's just tons of stuff going on the WP-Tonic website, so go and have a look. And we'll see you next week, where we're going to have another great panel, another great discussion. I think recently the discussions have been fantastic. And we love you to join the tribe, join the WP-Tonic tribe. That would be great. We'll see you next week, folks. Bye.
Bye.